Hello everyone, it's Stevie King season again. Just as promised, welcome to this small corner of the internet which I have proclaimed mine. Make yourselves comfortable, today we're talking about different seasons. Full transparency, I was going to make this one single long video. That was always the plan, but as I was nearing the end of writing the script for this, I realized at a minimum it was going to end up being 40 minutes long. And I don't think anyone can stand being here with me for that long. Unless you're consuming these as a podcast, which, you do you. After some back and forth, a friend suggested I just split the video into 4 parts, 1 per each novella, and honestly, that is the most sensible thing to do. And in the long run, it's probably going to stress me less, so that's what we're doing. I am telling you this in advance because the 4 videos will probably have intersecting thoughts from the different stories of the whole book. So it's up to you if you want or don't want to watch them like it's one whole thing. Without further ado, let's get right to it. Though trigger warning for this section of the video, I will be talking surface level about sexual assault, so it'll be there in case you want nothing to do with it, okay? Let's go! Different Seasons was written by Stephen King and published in 1982. It collects 4 stories formatted after the seasons of the year: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And for this video, we'll be tackling the first of a bunch. Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption is the story of Andy Dufresne, who's been recently convicted for the murder of his wife and her lover. He's found guilty beyond the shadow of a doubt and ends up in Shawshank. Through the years, he faces many hardships and befriends the local man who can get it all and fellow inmate Red, who happens to be the narrator of our story. Here be spoilers, Andy is in fact innocent, but we do spend the whole novella wondering if he did do it or not. I've mentioned this before in my It review, that when I've read King books, I usually gulp them up like gummies. And that did not happen here. It was a bit of a stilted reading, which to be fair, I do usually read like that. That or, like that. But starting with this story, I had to stop about 8 times, probably more, while I was reading a very specific section of the book, because I just knew that something bad was going to happen to Andy. And by this point, I'd grown so attached to him. And I didn't want to suffer, of course. After doing some soul searching, I came to the conclusion that specific part was what started my unsmooth reading of the book as a whole. But make no mistake, I enjoyed it immensely, the book as a whole and this particular story. But yeah, a lot of the times I would just close the book and stop reading when I could feel something painful closing in on me. I realized much later that I was doing this because I didn't want to know what came next. But at the moment, I just thought I was being my usual distracted self. It's a very hard-hitting story at times. Andy has a very bad time. Of course he does. It's a prison, not a damn resort. Especially at the beginning. Most of the inmates don't like him because they think he's a stock-up and a man who thinks himself better than the rest. He's not. He's just closed off and a little bit on the serious, maybe even shy side. Now, I don't know how much of what King wrote is true about prison life. I don't know how much research Mr. King did, but he certainly makes the reading feel very well informed, if that makes sense. He writes things with such depth of information, like what music was playing at the time, political events, the places. All the day-to-day happenings are there in a way that makes the world feel real. And I like that. I really like that. He puts things in such a way that even if he were making everything up, I think I would believe him. I wanted to go for a dark and dreary vibe for these drawings and chose to do them with pencil. I used to do most of my art with pencil before, many years ago, before I discovered the wonders of markers. So it's nice to be back, though I'm afraid I'm not as sharp as I used to be with it. The image of Andy in his cell looking out of the window really struck with me. Just the hopelessness of the moment, even though, in the end, hope is the one thing Andy has in abundance. I try to not immediately watch the movies of the books that I'm reading before doing these videos, out of fear that I'll be influenced some way. But I couldn't help myself. I did wait up for a couple of days after reading the story, but I ended up watching the movie pretty soon afterwards. Stop talking about movies. Stop talking about movies. Stop talking about movies. Stop talking about movies. Oh my god. Stop talking about movies. Stop talking about movies. Stop talking about movies. I was weak. I will try to keep movie thoughts out of my head as much as possible. Pinky promise, with a cherry on top, or however the expression goes. But,
I believe in two things: discipline and the Bible. Here you'll receive both. Put your trust in the Lord. Your ass belongs to me.
Your ass belongs to me now. I'll be honest, I bought this book because I really wanted to read this story, and I had heard there was a big change at the end of the book in comparison to the movie. There is literally no easier way of making me read a book than telling me it's good and that there's a movie adaptation coming out soon. Moving on. I really like stories where the narrators are not really the main characters. In this case, Red is the one telling the story, but Andy is the main focus. I love the kind of framing a story like this can give us. The incomplete narrative of viewing a main character through a narrow lens. You get to fall in love through only what bits and pieces the narrator can give you. And I do really love Andy, so it was very painful reading about the things that happened to him. He is unfortunately raped several times while he is in prison and brutalized because he refuses to stay down and take it. It was just very hard to read, even though King sort of sprinkles it around and doesn't actually shove it in your face. Like, it's clear, just not graphic. Eventually though, financially savvy person that he is, Andy manages to play his cards just right to make himself so useful to the guards that he ends up gaining privileges. Hear me out. He starts giving them financial advice and doing their taxes later on, which is just a baller move. And I respect him so much for it. The perks of now being an ace to the prison management start with the guards keeping the sisters off of him. That's the group of rapists that keep assaulting him and beating him up. He gets to keep his cell for only himself, and he's eventually moved to work at the library instead of the harder jobs that there are inside the prison. My baby is so smart. This really is a story about keeping hope, and prison is a perfect place for a story like this. What harder place to keep hope in than a cage without escape? And the way Red describes Andy throughout the story, he says something like, he's like a man who's not trapped at all. Just a simple Joe taking a stroll, like he could go home any day. I love it. And this hope he shows in other ways too. Like helping the inmates graduate from high school from inside the prison once he's in charge of the library. Or making the library itself just a place of true knowledge. Being stubborn until the collection of books grows and grows and grows until it gets to be the biggest prison library in the country, if I remember correctly. But all of these things he manages to do. And the coming of them is slow, but Andy is a persistent bastard. And it is with this same attitude and stubborn perseverance that he keeps his hope. I really like this story a lot, even though it made me suffer from time to time. I just love Andy so very much, and the only reason I would have wanted him to be the narrator of the story was just so we could have spent more time with him. Thank you everyone for watching. I really hope that you stick around with me for the rest of the videos. And please let me know if you've read the book or this particular story, like, what do you think about it? I feel a lot of the times when I'm consuming a story, I miss a lot of details, either from the big picture or the small picture, so let me know your insight. Let me know what I missed. On a last note, I did not mention this in the review, but one of the biggest antagonists of the story is the last warden in Andy's time, a priest named Norton. At least I think he was a priest, I'm not sure. And there is nothing much that disgusts me more, like on a spiritual level, than a villain who is also religious. There is just something about them, something, you know, just these sorts of characters being all high and mighty and complete hypocrites and abusing their power is just vomit-inducing. There is this one prison inmate that comes in later in the story, Tommy Williams, and he has proof that Andy is innocent. And Warden Norton just, you know, sends Tommy into a different prison. And Warden Norton just sends Tommy into a different prison and chucks Andy into solitary for weeks on end because he attacked him or something. Some bullshit. I thought I was plenty disgusted. But good lord, I didn't know what was coming my way. I'll see you all next time when we discuss Apt Pupil. Welcome everyone to the section of the video where I make a liar out of myself. Yes, I'm going to talk about the Shawshank Redemption movie adaptation. Buckle up, buckaroos. So, best boy Tommy Williams doesn't die in the movie, right? He's just sent off to a different prison and given a nice deal so he can be reunited with his wife and baby sooner. Have you seen the movie by any chance? They fucking killed my baby. When I tell you I screamed so much at the TV when they shot him in the head, I cannot. Fuck. Ah! But the cinematography of the movie is just so gorgeous, and the acting of Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne is just so lovely. Can Frank Darabont make any more Stephen King adaptations? Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile are his? Holy moly, that is legend material right there. One thing that is absolutely hilarious to me is the fact that Andy in the book is described as small, not short, but just like small. And he's played by the absolute mountain of man that is Tim Robbins, Mr. I'm 1.96 meters tall. That is just hilarity.